Welcome viewers. Today we are going to discuss a very important topic of your program, that is postgraduate certificate in inventory planning and warehousing system. And this topic is related with your second number course, that is MWR02, that is Advanced Inventory Planning and Control, in which you have studied about the material requirement planning, manufacturing resource planning, just-in-time, aggregate production planning, and then finally this is also a very recent topic, supply chain management, in which we will start today in this session. We will highlight certain aspects of supply chain management. What are the learning objective for today's session? Today we are going to address supply chain. What is supply chain? How supply chain management is defined? What do you understand by development chain? This is a new concept and definitely we will discuss it. Then need for supply chain. Why supply chain management is required? Then at the last we will conclude with the benefits of supply chain management, and also we will give you few examples of the companies who with the better supply chain management have gained a lot of profit as well as market share because of good management or the efficient management of supply chain management. Before discussing in detail about the supply chain, let me ask you one question, that what is supply and what is demand, and what is the importance of supply with respect to demand, and what is the importance of demand with respect to supply. You will appreciate that if your supply is more, demand is less, then you have certain items which are not consumed. Similarly, if supply is less, demand is more, there are chances of a stock out condition where the customer may or may not like to wait and will switch over to the another brand. So here I am giving you some examples where because of there is unbalanced supply and demand, there are many companies which suffered a lot. For example, Boeing aircraft, that is the famous company, just because of raw material shortages that result into productivity inefficiency and big loss occurred to Boeing aircraft. Then second company is US Surgical Corporation. They have anticipated large amount leading to shortfall in sales and earnings. Then third example is IBM, again shortage in supply leading to selling of one of its unit. Then finally Intel, you have heard the name of Intel. It is a largest chip maker company, reported 38% decline in quarterly profit because of difficulty in matching supply and demand. Now let us come to the about the what is supply chain. If you just see this figure illustrate that all the parties involved directly or indirectly in fulfilling the customer demand. So here you have two things, that whether any party or trading partner is directly connected or indirectly connected. Just like if you say that logistic, they may not be directly connected. Transportation may not be directly connected, but they are fulfilling and they are playing an important role in fulfilling a customer request. So here are the players which I will illustrate you in my next slide, that a supply chain includes manufacturer, suppliers, transporters, warehouses, retailers and customer. And what is happening in a typical supply chain? In a typical supply chain, raw material is procured, product is produced in one or two factories, then shipping product to the either to the intermediate storage for to the warehouse, or shipping product to the retailer or the customer. It is a typical supply chain. So if you just see this figure will illustrate you the different functions of in a typical supply chain. There are two things, one is production and another thing is distribution. For production, you need to procure the raw materials and the different equipment, tools, manpower, all things you have to procure or to purchase. Then you keep in the storage, then certain operations are there, then again storage, and finally the distribution. You must be aware that we have two types of industry. Basically, if you broadly classify, one is your manufacturing industry, another one is your service industry. In the manufacturing industry, the supply chain is bigger than the service industry, where you have a storage, manufacturing, again storage, then distribution, retailer, and the customer. Now, if you come to the supply chain of the service, just like your hospitals, your aircraft or flight services, then your banks, post office, all they have the very short supply chain, but supply chain exists where you have a supplier, then you have a storage, then you have a service provider, and where the customers used to come to take the service. So that is the supply chain for the service sector. Now I will give you another example of Procter and Gamble. If you just see at this side, the customer wants to purchase a detergent and goes to a supermarket or the retailer named as Jewel. It may be any supermarket, Big Basket or V-Mart, anything. Now, as the customer reaches to the Jewel market or the Jewel supermarket, the supply chain start working. So Jewel is a third party which keeps the items supplied by Procter and Gamble. Here you have many other, just like Hindustan Lever or any other company. Now this detergent is made of three components. One is plastic, then packaging, then finally your chemical. So three products are used in the manufacturing of a detergent. Now for a plastic producer, the supplier is chemical industry or chemical manufacturer who is producing oil to the plastic producer, from where the plastic will be for the packaging, then Tenneco packaging. Now what they are doing, they are taking the raw material from timber industry, then it is converted into paper, then paper to Tenneco packaging, from where all the three components, packaging, plastic and chemical, they goes to the Procter and Gamble, and from there it goes to the Jewel market, supermarket. Now you must have understood that what is supply chain. Now best thing is that now we are directly coming to the supply chain management. Basically, supply chain management is a management of flow of goods and services and includes all the processes that transform raw material into final product. Now this is a supply chain. If you just see, we have a farmer or the agriculture product producer. From there it goes to the industry. From there it process. After that it goes to again big companies. From there it is making packaging, then transporting, then inside the factory you are just seeing that how with the help of a forklift, it is going to the transportation, then retailer, and here you have seen that how the it is going to the retailer and the customer or the consumer are buying at the last. So this is the supply chain, and this is the supply chain management. If you manage your supply with the demand, it is the best for the supply chain management. Now, why we need the supply chain management? First is improving operations. Just like any operation, for example, procurement of raw material. If you have a better supply chain, you need that procurement should be proper. Inventory should be properly managed. Manufacturing or the operation should be properly carried out. Then transportation and distribution. For that purpose, we need a better supply chain management. Then second is increasing level of outsourcing. You must appreciate as the time goes on, now the main focus is on the core competency. Companies are outsourcing each and every activities to the other person. That is called the outsourcing. When you have an increasing level of outsourcing, you need a management of supply chain. Then third one is transportation cost is increasing, because for everything you are outsourcing, and as you are outsourcing, you are basically increasing the transportation cost. Fourth one is enhancing competitive pressure. As the more and more companies are coming in the market, so you need a better brand image over your competitor. So it is well said, it is not the companies who will compete in the 21st century. It is the supply chain which will compete with each other. The company which has a better supply chain management will be in a better position. They will handle the market in a better way. Then another one is your increasing globalization. The companies are now working on a globalization. Earlier, what was happening? Your supplier or the vendor was nearby you. But the manufacturer in India can take the supplier from Vietnam, from Taiwan, and the manufacturer from China or USA can take the supplier from India. So that is the thing, or that are the functions of the globalization. Even today, the Indian manufacturer can sell his or her product in the global market. Now, the competition is a global competition. It is not like that as earlier, that your competition is within your city or within your state or within your country. So the competition is global. That is why you need the better supply chain. Then increasing the importance of the e-commerce. Now, what is e-commerce? As you are now in 21st century, so everything is linked with the internet. You can purchase lot of things by using e-com companies. So when e-com company is the business is increasing, for managing that business you need the supply chain management. I will explain with the help of one example. For example, you go to website of any e-com company and you want to buy a small product. Now they will show on their catalog that this is available and the time of delivery is 2 days or 3 days. You click, you make the payment, and within 2 or 3 days that particular product or item is coming to your house. Now what is happening? When you click at the website, you make the payment, at the same time the online order goes to the supplier of that e-com company. Now they have ensured that they should make the promise given by the e-com company. So within 2 days, the remaining part will be cared by the supplier. And you make the payment, you just see that how the supply chain is working. The supplier must have its warehouse, it must have its manufacturer, distributor, supplier, or the transportation facilities. Now, with your click, all the activities are taking place at once or immediately. So these are the parts of the supply chain. Another important thing is that the customer expectation is increasing. Product life cycle is reducing. The time duration of a product remain in the market is reducing. So what is happening, that every time the customer needs a new product. Now how it is possible? If you have a better supply chain, you can get the feedback from the market, from the customer, and you design with the help of your supplier. Then the complexity of supply chain is increasing. Now today's, it is not like that you have a supplier, manufacturer, distributor, retailer, and the customer. Now the supplier has its own supplier, that is called supplier, tier 1 supplier, tier 2 supplier, tier 3 supplier. Similarly, if there are 3 companies, they are OEM, original equipment manufacturer, and they are making the auto machinery, just like, or any machinery. So 3 companies, there are a lot of chances they are purchasing the items from the single supplier. This makes the complexity in the scheduling, how to schedule that each manufacturer get the item from the single source supplier within a scheduled time. So that is the BT, that is why we need a supply chain management. Another important thing is managing inventories. Now you just see, supply chain works on the 2 things. One is your supply and one is your demand. So if you manage your inventory at your warehouse or at your manufacturer, and you will be able to match or balance with the supply and the demand. You need not to hold the inventory in a larger quantity because it takes the capital. Similarly, you cannot take the risk of holding a small quantity of inventory because there are chances of your stock out condition. So these are basically the need, that why we need the supply chain management. Now we will come to a very, very universal definition of a supply chain management. Integrating supplier, manufacturer, warehouses, and stores. Why we want integration? Because we want to produce and distribute a merchandise at right quantity, at right location, at right time. And the objective is to minimize the system-wide cost while satisfying the service level requirement. Now, if you make certain observation from this definition, you will find that there is an impact on the cost as well as there is an impact on the service level. That means you need to reduce the cost. In the meantime, you also want to satisfy the customer by providing a good service level. Second observation is, it is a system approach. What I mean to say, system approach means no player is independent. All players are depending on each other. For example, supplier depends manufacturer, manufacturer depends on the supplier. Third important point which you must have observed, that there are three types of level of integration among members. First is your operational, that is day-to-day operations. Second is tactical, 1 week to 10 days time. Then strategic, long-term planning, 1 month, 2 months or 6 months. All these comes under the strategical planning. Now, one question must be coming to your mind, that if supply chain is simple, as we have mentioned in our definition, then why supply chain management is so difficult? There are two reasons. One is that the supply chain is not alone. There is another chain which is called as a development chain, for which we have study in our next slide. Second thing is that the supply chain strategies cannot be isolated with the organizational strategies. For example, organization may focus on the reducing the cost. Supply chain strategies may be satisfying the customer or improving the service level. So if you reduce the cost, your service level will go down. If you improve the service level, your cost will go up. So these are the two things, and one has to make a trade-off between these two. So another important thing regarding the difficulty in managing the supply chain, there are two things: minimization of cost and maintaining the service. So it is very difficult to design a supply chain with the minimization of total supply-wide, total system-wide cost and maintaining the service, because it is very difficult for a facility, single facility, that cost is also minimized and service level is maintained. Sometimes difficulty increases exponentially. Here you need the globalization. That means globalization does not mean global optimization. There are two things: globalization and global optimization. Globalization means you are taking care of other countries apart from your own country. Global optimization means that your supplier, manufacturer, distributor, retailer and are working together. They are not a single entity. They are working for the whole soul, for the supply chain. Another important point which makes the supply chain typical or difficult. Two things are involved. One is uncertainty and second thing is risk inherent. You will appreciate that customer demand cannot be forecasted accurately. Similarly, during travel time from one supplier to the manufacturer or manufacturer to dealer, there is always possibility of delay. Third important thing about the uncertainty is breakdown of machines and breakdown of the transportation vehicles. Second important thing which increases the uncertainty is outsourcing or the lean manufacturing. Lean manufacturing means we are trying to reduce the waste. Now when we talk about the outsourcing, now what we are doing, we are going to give the control of our production to the third party. Now what is happening? He or she will understand our shortcomings, or he or she may be the possible or probable competitors of our company. So these are the things, and that increases the uncertainty in the supply chain. Now we will come to the development chain. Development chain basically is a set of activities which is associated with the new product design. It includes the product design phase, its needs to decide uh, about the sourcing decision and the production plan. Development chain includes certain decision. First is your product architecture, that what items need to be made internally and what items are required to be purchased from outside. Second important thing is that regarding the supplier, how you will make the supplier selection and what are the strategies or what are the decisions where you need the involvement of supplier at the early stage. Then strategic partnership, that a long-term partnership to whom you will develop the strategic partnership. Now this is a picture or the photo of the development chain. You will see this is your normal supply chain. You have a supply, you have a production, you have a distribution, then you have a selling, and here is coming a product or the development chain where you need a decision about the product design, whether to make internally or whether to make outside. Similarly, you have to make the selection for the supplier. You have to fix the criteria for making the supplier selection or the supply contract. Now, if you go to the history, Hewlett Packard or HP was the first company who recognized the intersection of development chain and the supply chain. They have their own production of inkjet printer production where they have to take the certain decisions about the labor and the material cost, and where they have recognized the intersection of development chain and the supply chain. Now, what is happening in the real life, which is making our supply chain more complex? Vice President of Engineering are working and fulfilling his own objective, VP of Manufacturing for the production portion, and VP of Supply Chain for the logistic purpose. Now, here you will find that supplier wants something different, manufacturer wants something different, and both warehouse and distributions want something different which is not matching with supplier and the manufacturer. So therefore, supply chain is a complex network which comprises of different suppliers, different parties across the large geography. This is the example of a complex supply chain, National Semiconductor. You just see that how complex is the supply chain of the National Semiconductor. These are the some of the benefits of the supply chain. Just like if you have a better supply chain, inventories can be lower, productivity can be increased, you can achieve greater agility, lead times can be shorter, you can achieve the high profits and the greatest customer loyalty. So, in this session, we have focused on supply chain. We have understand what is supply chain management, what is development chain, and why the supply chain management is difficult. Because the different parties have different objectives. And there are two things. One is reduction in the system-wide cost, and another one is your improving the service level. Both are opposite with each other because you cannot go along with the both, that you can reduce the cost as well as you can improve the service level. So I trust that my session will be useful to you in learning the supply chain management in your course MWR02, that is Advanced Inventory Planning and Control. Thank you.
Are you a fresh graduate? Do you want to fulfill your educational aspiration by pursuing higher education in various interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary areas like